Okay, well, welcome to this nature journaling session. I'm so honored to be invited by Valerie to come and share with you my love and passion for nature journaling. And I'm going to share a little bit about that. But before we start, I'm going to share this one screen. I'd love for you to go down to the chat box and type in, what is something that brings you joy, something that makes you smile? And it could be anything. It could be, a hummingbird that came to your planter, or your friend's smile, or some delicious food that you ate, or a beautiful sunrise. Maybe it's the sound of the birds outside. And once you've typed yours in there, would love to go and everyone take a look and see what everyone else is saying. I'm going to take my type mine in, because I'm sure there's lots of things that bring you joy, but what's one thing right now? Okay, and then let's go on over. So we've got dolphins popping out of the ocean, mountain lakes, wild birds at the feeder, a cat, the blue sky with a few clouds floating by, and someone's put in their dog. Yeah. So with that, I just want to welcome everyone to think about, like, what is that thing that brings you joy, and just bring that joy into your heart. I find that when I think about something that's that I'm grateful for or joyful, it just really changes my mood. I don't know about you, but some days, like right now, I live in Monterey County, so I'm on the coast. And so summertime is always foggy, and we've got some overcast skies. And sometimes it could be a little bit tough to be smiling and in a good mood. And so sometimes we need this little boost of, like, okay, let's think about what is bringing me joy today to kind of lighten up my mood. So I'm really grateful to be here with all of you and getting to share something that I love to do. So my background, I think maybe you may have read a little bit, is I have a background in science as an educator, longtime naturalist, and I don't consider myself an artist, but well, I hadn't considered myself an artist, but I do a lot of creative things. And so I think we are all creators and artists in our own ways. So I have kept a nature journal for over 20 years. And when it started, I don't think I knew about nature journaling as a subject. So I kept a journal where I wrote down the kind of birds that I was seeing. I grew up in the Bay Area, in Mountain View and then in Palo Alto. And I would go out in nature, and I was learning how to identify birds, and I was just writing down the names of birds and what I saw. And so my nature journal was a lot about words, and I recorded the date and the time that I saw something, and then maybe sketched a little bit of a drawing or a diagram to help me remember how to identify these birds. And over time, it's changed to put more pictures in there and diagrams, and I've really developed. My nature journals have changed. So I want you to know that you're going to start where you are, no matter if you have any drawing background or not, or science background or not. It's totally okay. This is open for anybody. And drawing is a skill, and it just takes practice. And we're going to do a little bit about that. We're going to do a little bit today. Okay, so what is nature journaling? Well, the way that I describe it is that it's about being in nature or observing nature, and then recording what you experience. So putting that on paper. And we use words and numbers and pictures and diagrams, and we put that in our journal. And I like to have a journal that's bound so that I can kind of keep track of my experiences on this planet. And I want to share a quote, well, maybe it's a few sentences here, by Rachel Carson, this wonderful scientist and naturalist, who was most well known for Silent Spring, although before that she did a lot of natural history writing. So I'm going to read this to you. For most of us, knowledge of our world comes largely through sight. Yet we look about with such unseeing eyes that we are partially blind. One way to open your eyes to unnoticed beauty is to ask, what if I had never seen this before? And what if I knew I would never see it again? And this is what I want to invite you into when we are out in nature. What if I had never seen this before? And what if I knew I would never see it again? This lily in front of us, we would see it with a different perspective. And in fact, everything that we see outside in nature is temporary, right? Like the sky will never be this sky. The tree that's out there is always growing and changing. Same with people. So with nature journaling, we get to be in nature, to experience it, just to be, instead of always moving around and doing. I'm sure all of you have different activities and things that you're involved in, and taking time to be still in nature can be very rejuvenating and bring a sense of joy and peace. And by recording our experience in our journal, it deepens our knowledge of it. So this is my neighbor's garden, and I was drawing the plants that I was seeing. And when I draw, I'm using drawing as a tool to help me focus on what I'm seeing, so that I can get to know it a little bit better and deepens my knowledge. So, for example, drawing the sunflower, I'm noticing how the leaves are arranged on the stem, maybe what the texture of the leaf feels like, how many petals, what does the face of the flower look like, right? Those things might pass me by if I was just out there looking, but by using the journal and drawing, it's helping me be more present with what's in front of me. And I find that nature journaling is a counterbalance to our busy lives. My life is full of lots of different activities, and sometimes I don't slow down enough. And so by putting nature journaling in, it helps to decrease the stress that I feel and, concerns that we have in the world today. And also there's a lot of research that shows that time in nature, whether you're journaling or not, just being in nature, has a multitude of positive effects on us. And, if we search, we can find all of this literature, different research projects that talk about how looking at the blue sky, or seeing plants, or taking care of a house plant or a pet, or taking a walk, being outside, can have positive effects on our health, our mental well-being, how rapidly we recover from an illness, improving our memory, improving our creativity, all kinds of really great benefits. So even if you're not journaling, just being out in nature can have a really good effect on all of us. Nature journaling also develops our skills of awareness. So as a naturalist, for hundreds of years, people, John Muir and Rachel Carson, John James Audubon, Charles Darwin, were all observing nature and recording what they see. And some of them made amazing discoveries that you wouldn't have seen if you were just walking by. So we're improving our drawing skills. We're also deepening this sense of curiosity and being just, marveling at what's around us, and improving with visual vocabulary, drawing words with little cartoons and pictures. So these are different ways that we can put what we can put in our journal. I talk about 3 languages. Those are the combination of using words and sketching or pictures, and also numbers, this kind of mixing our analytical and using our words and our artistic side is going to bring us like really into that moment and exploring what nature has to offer. So here's just some examples of different kinds of ways that you can journal. And we're using drawing to learn to see So it's not like in an art class. Many of us have encountered drawing in art class, and perhaps we had some unpleasant memories of that class or outcomes of our drawing. And I want you to invite you to set that aside and just approach this as drawing as a tool. Right, we're learning how to see what nature a little bit more deeply. So we'll be covering that in a few minutes. Some examples of how you can build a nature journal page, and these are just observations of what I've experienced when I was outside. Here's some examples of numbers, counting the petals on a flower. Counting the petals on the flower or needles in a bundle of pine needles can give us scientific information. It can help us identify the plant that's in front of us as well, and measuring things. And the supplies you need for nature journaling are very minimal. Something to write on and something to write with. So hopefully you all have a pen or a pencil. Nothing special is required to do nature journaling. You can have a sketchbook that's bound. I recommend something that's bound so that you can see your progress. The more that you journal, the better you're going to get, right? The repetition is going to help you improve. So having it bound is really helpful because then you can look back at your work. Let's see, optional, you can have watercolors or colored pencils to add to your journal. But I would just recommend keeping it simple. Use whatever paper you have right now, whatever sketchbook you have right now, and keep it simple. And as you start doing nature journaling, you'll get a sense for, oh yeah, I think I want a book that's a little bit bigger, or, oh, I don't really like this pen very much. Let me try a different one. So, this is different from an art class where, you would have a list of very specific items you need to have. You can use whatever you have. And one of my mentors, Claire Walker Leslie, who has written many books on nature journaling, she says the pencil she uses, she calls it a family pencil. It's whatever pencil that's around on the kitchen table. So like a plain yellow wooden pencil, that works perfectly. Or even a ballpoint pen. Okay, so we're going to go over some ways that I keep a nature journal in, and these are kind of 3 prompts that I like to use. One is about making observations, seeing what's around you, and the prompt would be I notice. So you could write that on your page when we're doing our example. The second part is about curiosity, and inevitably when we stop to look at something, some questions are going to pop up in our mind, some observations, like, look at that. Isn't that interesting? Or like, oh, I wonder why that has this on there. Why does this only have 2 petals? Why does this have, spikes on it? And we're going to record those because that is helping us to develop our sense of curiosity. And once we get those first few questions on the paper, some really more interesting questions will arise. And the third part is about making connections or relationships with the thing that's in front of you. What does it remind you of? So perhaps this flower that you don't know anything about reminds you of something similar. For example, on this page, on these seed pods right here reminded me of buttons, like on a big wool coat, so you can say, hey, these remind me of buttons. Or these remind me of little hats, these seed pods. And when we do that, making connections between 2 things that are unrelated, we can start to get our creative juices flowing. Okay, so before we start nature journaling, we're going to start with a warm-up, and this is just to get our hand and our eye and our brain working together. And I like to think of these as training our brain, so making our eye and our hand work together. With nature journaling, the drawing that we do is observational, so you don't have to know how to draw something already. So if I have a porcupine in front of me, I don't have to know how to draw a porcupine in order to nature journal. I just watch the porcupine and I draw what I see. And these warm-ups, these exercises are going to help. I teach a lot more in my courses, but right now we're going to just do one or two. And these are, the goal is to help us see and draw what we're seeing, not to make a pretty picture. Okay, so I'm going to show you this flower. And actually, I'm going to stop my share and change my share here. Desktop share. And now you should be able to see my notebook. All right, let me make this bigger. All right, does everyone see the flower and then my notebook? Okay, so one thing that I like to start out my nature journal with is the date. So let's put down the date. You can put in whatever format you want. I have a particular format that I like to use. So today's the 25th, Wednesday, and putting the date on your nature journal page is really important because I will forget like the date if I don't put it down. So I'm going to put my date, and you could put the time and location and the subject of what you're doing. So we'll put 10:30 a.m. is our nature journaling with the villages. Okay. And I'm going to teach you an activity that maybe you may have done if you took an art class. It's called a blind contour. And what that means is that I'm going to show my cursor here on the flower. Your eye will be following this flower. And while your eye is going around the flower, your hand is going to be drawing what your eye sees. And here's the trick. Do not look at your paper. You're going to look at this flower that's on the screen right now and not look at the paper. So the pen goes down on the paper, pick a spot. I'm going to start with this, maybe this outside petal, and you're going to not lift the pencil. So the pencil is stuck to the paper, and I'm going to trace around these petals, and I'm not going to lift my pen. It's going to be magnetized to the paper. And as my eye is following the flower, my pen is drawing what I am looking at. And don't worry about what the drawing looks like on the paper, because the goal is not about drawing the flower. The goal is about training our eye, our brain, and our hand to work together. So I'm just going to go around, and then I'm going to backtrack if I need to, because if I lift my pen, I'm going to lose track of, where I am. So not looking at the paper, because your drawing is going to look funky, and it's totally okay. And going around, and you can do this at any time with anything, and this is really great practice to develop this eye, brain, hand coordination. You could go slower when you're doing this on your own. I'm kind of doing this at a faster pace just so that we can get to a few different exercises. Okay, so I'm coming around on my last petal, I think. Can't remember where I started. Oop, I went off the page. Okay. All right, so not to worry about what your picture looks like, but you'll see that my drawing doesn't look like the columbine, and that's totally okay. Right, again, the goal is not to have a pretty picture of the columbine. We're training our eye, brain, and our hand to draw what we see. So this one was called a blind contour. So I'm going to label it on my paper here, blind contour, if I can spell, contour drawing. And you can do this at any time with anything. You can hold your hand or coffee mug or if you have a pet, maybe while your pet is sleeping, do a blind contour. Maybe you can look in the mirror and do a blind contour of your face or a flower. This is really great training for your eye, brain, and hand. Okay, the second exercise is called a modified contour. And feel free to unmute and let me know if you have any questions. At any time. All right, so I'm going to move this over. We're going to do a modified contour. So this is similar to what we just did, but instead I can look back at my picture on my paper. So my eye is going between, I'm looking at the column blind, following the shape of the petal and looking back at my paper, and I'm drawing, and I look back at the photo and I look back at my paper. So I'm going to go back and forth between looking at the subject and drawing on my paper. And again, we're not going to worry about what this drawing looks like. We're just focusing on noticing all the detail in this flower. And again, I like to do this with a continuous line. So I leave my pen tip on the page, but you can lift up if you want to. And there's something unusual about this flower. I don't know if anyone's noticed it yet. So again, just looking back and forth, looking at the subject and looking back at my paper. Not worried about it looking perfect. It's noticing, that there are 5 white petals and 5 purple ones. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so this one looks more like the flower because I was looking back and forth and getting a better sense of perspective. But both of these are really good exercises to do with anything. And I think if you do it with the pen on the paper, what happens for me is I have a voice that happens in my head, an inner critic that's always critiquing the work that I do. I don't know if you have any of you have that, but by doing these, especially the blind contour drawing, when I do these, it helps quiet that that critical self. And normally in a class, I might do a couple of these. So, you know, we might do a blind contour with 2 different pictures. But I think what we'll do, since we have a short time together, is get down to doing some nature journal practice. So I'm going to flip over to a brand new page so that I have a lot more room. And I'm going to invite you on. Now, I don't know, I didn't ask you to do this ahead of time, but if you have some nature item around you, maybe it's, here's an example I grabbed from my kitchen. I have a tomato. I also have one of these. So you can grab maybe a piece of fruit or a vegetable. Here's, I think I might do this green onion today. Or if you have a flower or a plant, you know, house plant next to you, if there's a flower, or maybe you have a nature item that you've collected, like maybe you have a shell or a rock. And if you don't have anything handy, it's okay. You can follow along with me and we can draw what I'm drawing together. So we'll do a couple of these so that you get an idea of some. So with nature journaling, we're taking this 3-dimensional thing that we see, and let's say we're outside in the garden, we see this really beautiful flower growing on this plant, and I want to put that in my nature journal. Well, it takes some practice and learning some skills or some tips and strategies to turn this three-dimensional thing onto something that goes onto a two-dimensional page, right? So we can make it easy. I'm going to share with you some tricks on how to do that. And I'm going to keep reiterating that nature journaling is not about art. Like, this is not going to be a botanical illustration. You may have seen drawings that people do that are really realistic with lots of detail and beautiful technique. That's not what we're doing today. Today, we're drawing things that are just what okay, I'm going to share a couple pages with you. Here's one. Let me expand this page just so that you know. So here's what I did the other day. I saw these really cool strawberry plants growing in a parking lot of a medical clinic, and when I was walking my dog, and so I stopped to look at it, and I have my journal with me all the time. So I was able to draw one of the flowers very simply, just kind of like we did with the contour drawing, and then a little bit zooming in on one of the flowers. So zooming out of what it looked like was a mess of these lines, these strings that come out. And so I zoomed in on the center, which I thought was really interesting. The pollen part of the flower looked like little circles, like donuts. And then I zoomed in on the leaves because I noticed they had 3 leaflets. So with nature journaling, I don't have to draw the whole thing with lots of detail. I can focus in on small parts of it that are of interest to me. So, you know, this is, let me find something. So zooming in on one leaf, this is the sunflower from far away. Now you can tell that this is not super detailed. It's my style is more loose, and I do this on purpose because my tendency is to draw realistically, like super detailed. And what happens is I'll spend way too much time on getting every perfect petal of the sunflower, and then I've spent my whole day drawing one flower instead of really experiencing nature. So this is on purpose for me, is doing this far away view to see the sunflower, how the leaves are ordered. And then this particular day I was interested in leaves. So then I drew a close-up of the leaf, not super detailed, because what I wanted to really capture was the diversity. I wanted to capture, okay, there are all these different kinds of leaves, so I'm going to be more simple with them, and then I get to capture a whole lot more instead of spending the whole time on one leaf. And that was just a decision that I made. So you can make that decision for yourself too. So I just want to give you the freedom of being able to keep things simple. I wanted to keep track of, oh, I just planted some cuttings, so this is what it looked like, right? And then I write some words on there. So here's another one. I went to the beach and I saw some birds. This is not super detailed. It's scribble sketching. This is what I call it. When I give myself permission to scribble sketch, then I'm actually paying attention to nature. I'm able to pay attention to these birds because I'm not getting caught up in drawing making the picture look good, right? I can scribble it, and then I can go and pay attention to what it's doing, and I can write about, like, oh gosh, this was so cool. This is what it made me feel when I was watching these birds, and a list of the different things I saw. So your journal page can contain a lot of different kinds of information. Sometimes I don't do a lot of pictures at all. I just do words because that's all the time I have. I wanted to note, oh, some great horned owls were calling on this night. So I put the date and put that down. This is keeping track of the nature that's around me. So I want to just to share with you that it does not always have to be pictures. This was a live webcam. I like to do that sometimes. I'm looking at the grizzly bears in Alaska that are feeding on salmon. And on this particular day, the camera was zoomed in on this cute bear that was sitting on a rock. So again, I use the same technique that I shared with you, the modified contour drawing and scribble sketching, what I call just scribbling down, not being worried about every hair being perfect on the grizzly. I wanted to capture the feeling of this bear, which I thought was so hilarious, and zooming in on what I thought was important, right? And then zooming out on the bigger picture. So we're going to do that right now. All right, and if anytime you have a question, if you put it in chat, maybe someone can read off if there's any questions, because I'm not going to be monitoring that, or if you want to unmute and ask questions. So I think what we'll do is let's start with something simple. We're going to do a couple of different pictures. So we're going to start with the tomato. And what I'll do is, let me put the date down again. 2021, August 25th, Wednesday. And we are doing a tomato. Tomato. Oh, a fun way to do this is like turning this into a tomato. So maybe I'll color this red later, and this will be my tomato. All right. So this tomato has, maybe you have something that you're drawing, a piece of fruit, an apple, an orange. You can go along and use your fruit. And if you don't have one and want to do the tomato along with me, you can do that. Here's some different ways we could do it. So at first, I'm going to look at the tomato and I'm noticing, you know, the color. It's pretty uniform. It's like red all over, and it looks different on different angles. I think what I'll do is I'm going to do a side view first. I'm going to do several different views. So I'll do a side view of this tomato. So I'll turn it on the side so you can do it along with me. And I might just do like modified contour drawing. And I'm not going to worry about it being perfect, right? It's like a little bit skewed. It's okay. Nature is imperfect. My drawings can be imperfect. All right, so here's the tomato. I kind of see some faint lines. I'm going to give it some roundness here. So this is the side view. I think we knew that, but I'm going to label it. Some things we won't know. It's a side view. And next I'm going to look at the top view. So I'm going to put the tomato there. And I'll put the top view. I think I'm going to make I'm going to do top and bottom. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. So how about here? There's this bump that comes out that's more noticeable when you look from the top. And the center is right here. Okay, so I'm going to say, what do I notice? There's lots of different ways to nature journal. Here's one way. I'm going to say, what do I notice? I notice, you can feel free to unmute and let me know what you notice, and we can do this together. So I'll throw out some things I notice, and you can feel free to unmute and let me know what else you notice about this tomato. I notice it's lopsided. Some things you might notice are colors, textures, shapes, numbers, smells. Oh, it smells sweet. It smells like a sweet tomato. So I'm gonna say smells like a sweet tomato. All red. I noticed that the leaves here are dried. Sometimes you can draw lines like this. There's, how will we describe this part of the tomato? See how it's not smooth and round, it's bulging. It has a crease. Maybe it's creased here. What else do you notice about this tomato? Anyone else?
Shiny.
Yes, great observation. It's shiny, so it's not fuzzy. So you can tell, even though the tomato's not in front of you, that it's shiny. Shiny surface. Yeah, the skin is smooth and it has a little bit of give. So it makes me think that I've got to eat this pretty soon, right? So I'll tell you because you're not holding it. The skin, I don't know, gives a little. It tells me it's ripe. I'm going to turn it over on the underside and then maybe I'll draw the underside. So all of what we're doing today, you may not be interested in tomatoes, but this is, we're practicing these different strategies so that when you're out in nature looking at the thing that you're interested in, you have some different ways to put it into your nature journal. Okay, so what else do we notice? I'm noticing there's brown scarring. I don't know why. I think tomatoes often have that when they're these kind of weird shaped ones, but I don't know why. I wonder. Here's the next prompt. I'm gonna put a rectangle around it so you can see it better. So I wonder, I notice, I wonder. Does anyone wonder anything about this tomato?
I want to know what it looks like on the inside in relationship to those various bulges.
Yes, that is awesome. Okay. Oh, that's so great. Gosh, I wish I had a cutting board and a knife so we can cut it. We can totally totally get into this together. Maybe I might do that. I was going to do something else, but we could totally spend our time with this tomato. Does that sound like fun? Wait, I'm going to look over here. Let me see if I can see everybody. All right, wave if you like the idea of me cutting into this tomato and drawing the inside. All right, you want to see what it looks like inside. Okay. All right, so that's another technique strategy that we can use for nature journaling. So let me move this over so that I want to be able to see you guys too. Okay, all right, so here's another way to bring numbers in. Remember we did the side view. So, oh, isn't that funny? I think the side view, I didn't show the bulge. I think I must have done it. How did I do it? Okay, well, I'm going to measure across the tomato and I'm going to use, you can use inches, but I think I'm going to use centimeters because the rest of the world uses centimeters. And when I'm talking to my friends that are not in the United States, centimeters makes more sense. So this is 8 centimeters across. So I'm going to, so one way that you can do this is you can draw across like this, and you can go, this is from this edge to this edge, it's 8 centimeters across. You can also do it over on the side. So from this point to this point, I'm going to measure this, the tallness of this tomato, and it is about 5 inches. Oh, not 5 inches, 5 centimeters. So it's 5 centimeters tall and 8 centimeters wide. So it's a nice, delicious tomato, and I can't wait to cut into it. Okay, so this is the bottom, and here's the top. And so when you're nature journaling something, you can look at different views. With a green onion, I wouldn't have the top and bottom, but I might have, maybe if you flipped it, the leaf looks different, right? Like this leaf, let's say we were going to focus on a leaf. Wow, look at all those bug holes. This one's really eaten. That one's really, I love leaves that are not perfect. It just reminds me that everyone's unique, right? Every leaf, every flower is imperfect, well, imperfect in our eyes, but perfectly the way they need to be. Gosh, I think I might want to draw this leaf later. The front and the back, right? So when we're in nature, take a look at the back of things, right? Here's the front of this flower. What's going on with the back? Look at that. Look how different it looks. Look how it's red. The stem is reddish. There's a little tiny leaf. Look how they're branching. Oh my gosh, the branching. Here's the next prompt. It reminds me of. This reminds me of drawings of the branching of our lungs, right? The alveoli in our lungs. The branching of the hydrangea flowers reminds me of the branching of the alveoli in our lungs. Okay, so I digress. We're going to go back to our tomato. Okay, so we're learning how to draw different views. You can take measurements. You can look more carefully inside. Let's see this. You could count how many of these little leafy things are on there, right? It's hard to see. It looks like maybe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 leaves, right? You might think, why is it important to count leaves? I don't know. It's just something I'm observing. So maybe I'll put there's 11 leaves and they're all dried. I noticed that they're dried. So that probably means it was picked a while ago. So it's dried up. If I picked one from my neighbor's garden, they're on vacation and they've given me permission to pick their produce. So if I went over there and picked a tomato today, I bet the leaves would be kind of green. It might even have a different smell. So use your senses when you're nature journaling. Often, like Rachel Carson says, that we look about with unseeing eyes. So nature journaling helps us look. So before you put a tomato or a fruit, into your meal, take a moment to enjoy it. You don't have to do a whole nature journal page, but this is helping us to look at something in a different way and appreciate this beautiful tomato and how it's kind of bulged. And I have 3 tomatoes on my kitchen counter, so I could even draw all 3 of them and say, look how different all the shapes are. Do they all look like this? Having this one bulge and then the bigger part, it almost looks like 2 different tomatoes. Like if I covered it up, this looks like one tomato. Okay, I'm going to grab a knife and a little cutting board. So just give me one moment. So maybe you can take a sip of water and I will be right back.
Is everybody drawing the tomato, or are you guys drawing things in your houses?
I'm trying to draw the tomato. She's going too fast for me.
Yeah, I'm concentrating on the tomato.
Tomato. You guys are tomato oriented.
Tomato. Yeah, tomato.
Tomato. I'm the rebel. I'm drawing something else.
Oh, Devora, what are you drawing?
My friend had made this lovely, I have to unblur myself, but this is a
succulent.
A succulent in the shape of my first letter.
Yay!
And so I'm just drawing one of the succulents.
Yay!
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So we're gonna do. You can show a cross section of your. So succulents are really cool because they have like really fleshy leaves.
Yeah.
We're going to do an actual cross section, a dissection. But just for Devora, I'm going to show you, and for all of you, if you're doing something like this, like a succulent leaf, I don't have one handy, but if you had a leaf that looked like a jade plant, have you guys know what a jade plant is? They're like pretty common, right? Jade plant, they got fleshy leaves. From above, it might look like this, but when you draw it in the journal, you can't tell if it's a flat leaf or a chunky leaf. But if I draw a line across it, and then I do a cross section, okay, I can draw a picture of what it's going to look like if I take a knife, right? And I take a knife and I cut through that leaf. What is it going to look like? I'm going to put 2 letters here just to show that it's the left and the right side of the leaf. And I'm going to bring it over here, A and A prime. It's just symbols that are showing you where this leaf is. And I'm going to draw this. So if I draw this, it's showing that this leaf is pretty chubby, right? If this is the cross section, so this is what it looks like when it's cut. I'm imagining this, or you can actually cut it if you want to. But what if I did this? Here's a different example. What if I did this cross section and this leaf looked like this? What does that tell you about this flat picture? Right? It tells you it's scooped like this, right? And so you can nature journal any kind of shaped leaf without having drawing skills. You don't have to have fancy shading ability, with your colored pencils. You can draw a diagram of the leaf, draw a cross section, and you're showing that it's scooped. What if your leaf was kind of curved at the edges and then had, because I've seen leaves like this. So if that's the top, the edges are curved up, and then it has a center vein that's really prominent on the back. That might be like this leaf.
Hold it. You're not cutting the leaf. You're just looking at all the sides of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what I'm doing, imagine cutting the leaf. Imagine cutting the leaf and then drawing what you see. Okay, here's one for real. Here's a green onion. So I've drawn this green onion, right? And then I'm going to do a cross section here. Let's call it A and A prime over here. And then one way to show the cross section of this leaf, of this is just to cut it. And then what you're drawing is this part. Oh, I guess I could, it was like this, so I could show you. Can you see that? It's round, well, oval. It's oval. So then if I do this, I could also write in here, oval and hollow. So it's just about using a combination of words and diagrams and sketching and numbers to show something that maybe you are unable to show by just drawing it on the page, by painting it on the page. That smells really good. I like green onions. Okay, so that's one tip, the cross section. All right, let's go to the tomato, and we'll do this tomato here. I'm going to try not to make too much of a mess. All right, I'm just trying to think how I want to cut this. So there's a number of ways we can cut this, right? We can cut it like this, like this, like this, right? Look at, because of this irregular shape, there's a whole bunch of different places I could cut it. I could also cut it this way.
Yeah,
So,
cut it that way.
I could do 2 different ways. I could cut it twice. So I could cut it this horizontally, and then we'll cut it vertically. All right, so here we go. We're going to cut this tomato. Nice, look at that.
Where did you get that? Because it's gorgeous.
Isn't that, it's from our local CSA. Think you probably have them in your place too. Community supported agriculture. We have a local farmer that we buy a farm box. It's organic produce. It's an organic tomato, and we just picked it up yesterday. But look at that. This is really fascinating. Okay. So I wonder what it looks like inside. So we've cut it in half. So what we can do is now I'm going to draw one side. So maybe we can do that contour drawing of the tomato. And then I'm going to show the tomato on the side. And then this is cut here. So you can do a little cartoon of the tomato and you can draw a line, and this is cut here. So this is, you can call, I call it the equator. It's somehow, or horizontal, right? Horizontal cross section or equatorial cross section. And then, oh my goodness, look at all this detail. Well, I think what I'm going to shoot, what am I going to do? Okay, I think this is how I would do this. I see kind of a tree in here. I don't know if you guys see that, but I'm going to draw that kind of squiggly, right? And again, remember, it's not about drawing a pretty picture. You can be messy and just scribble. The important thing is that you're paying attention to nature and looking at all of the detail. Wow. You know, I'm not going to do this tomato justice by my drawing. So I think what I'll do is just marvel at what's going on. There's some darker spots. Okay. All right, there's a lot going on. So what I could do is I'm going to zoom in on this little section right here. And here's another trick. So if you want to show detail about one spot, you put a circle around it and you can make an arrow that gets bigger, or I think I'm going to connect them. So I'm going to make, oops, sorry, a little circle and then a big circle. And then I've connected the edges of the circle. And then here's the edge of the tomato. And so now I'm going to draw this. I want to look at this, this hole so that I don't have to draw all the detail in the whole tomato. I want to draw this little part of it. Sorry, that it's shiny, so you might not be able to see. Let me see if I can zoom in. Zoom in. Ah. Okay, I want to draw this little section right here because what I see are little tiny tomato seeds. So this dark opening, it's like a cavity inside the tomato with seeds and kind of juicy jelly stuff. That's what I want to draw. All right, let's see if I can get them both in view here. Okay, and you don't have to have any special vocabulary or terminology in order to do nature journaling, right? You just, I'm a biologist, and you heard me call it juicy jelly stuff. That's totally okay. Use whatever word that comes to mind. And I know it's a little bit hard to see perfectly, but this is just an exercise. So you can kind of follow along, and we're drawing this kind of funky little shape. And I'm not going to worry about the fact that it's not perfectly the right shape, but I'm drawing this here, and I wish I had a little poker. I don't have one, but I'm going to feel with my finger. Okay, so that dark spot, this is all kind of squishy.
Jelly stuff.
Yeah, gelatinous jelly stuff. All right. So this is about when we nature journal, I'm going to invite you to set aside what you think you already know about tomatoes and just come at it with a beginner's mind. I'm borrowing that from Zen tradition, right? If we come to nature with being a novice and looking at it with new eyes, there's more for us to see, right? If we come and say, well, I already know everything about tomatoes, then we're not opening our minds and our hearts for new discoveries. So I'm going to draw like a couple of seeds in here. You know what I might do is I don't have a way to, I didn't bring, oh, I have my knife. So I might like pick out. Ooh, look at this. Here's one seed. So I might use my magnifying glass, which I think is around here somewhere. I thought I kept it out. Well, if you had magnifying glass or glasses, you can get a close-up of what that seed looks like, right? And so there's, I might say squishy jelly stuff, and there's yellowish seeds. Cool. And then this section, this stuff is kind of firm, meaty flesh. This is the yummy stuff we like to eat, right? So I could do another, I could zoom in again. This time I'm going to use an arrow that gets bigger. So these are strategies I'm sharing with you to use anytime you're nature journaling if you want to look at something more closely. So then here's the seed. Let me see if I can see it. It's like a teardrop shape. And it's kind of, here's, let's do a cross section. I think it's like this shape, like an almond cross section. And this is the seed. Seed. All right, zoom back out. All right. So we've zoomed out on, this is one half of the tomato. This is, there's a combination of meaty stuff and juicy stuff. I can add color to this later if I wanted to. I can also start kind of noticing a little bit more. What else do I notice about this? Well, I notice the skin looks really thin. And gosh, it smells wonderful and I can't wait to eat it. So using our senses, right? Sense of smell. So here we go. So when you're doing something edible, you can use your sense of smell. You can use your sense of taste, sense of touch, smell, taste, touch. What am I missing? Hearing.
Sound, yep.
Sound, right? And I mean, eyes. Okay, eyesight. All right, so
Texture,
it's easy to
texture,
do.
yeah.
Texture, yes. So, okay, I want to go back to it reminds me of. So that is one really fun part that I like to invite you to look at when we're nature journaling. What does this remind you of anything looking at this? Like, at first I thought it looked like a tree, like the trunk of a tree and then the branches coming out. So I'm going to say it reminds me of, and then you can make a bulleted list if you want. Center looks like a tree. Actually, these little sections look like little trees with seeds as the leaves. Right, so I'm going to draw one over here. These look like trees. It reminds me of dissections in my biology class. I don't know if any of you remember high school biology, where we've looked at like the cutout of a kidney or some kind of organ, you know, with all of the veins and structures that are in there. That's what it kind of reminds me of. Or maybe like a cell on a slide, you know, like a slice of something on a slide that you look at in biology. Okay, so there's a tomato.
It
We can keep
also
going.
looks like it exploded.
Yes, it does, right? Like the radiating little bursts. Oh, yeah. Or like fractals, right? Just the
Yeah.
explodingness. Gosh, it smells really good. You know, and you can use smells. What does a smell remind you of? How do you describe the smell of a tomato? Well, we all know what a tomato smells like. How would you describe that smell? I'm going to say that it has a sweetness. Most of the times we might describe other things that smell like tomatoes instead of trying to describe tomato. So that can be something you think about. All right, so that's one way that we can put some dissection into our nature journal. But sometimes we're going to be outside and we can't bring a cutting board and a knife and cut into something. So I know we're kind of wrapping up at the end, but I just want to share one last thing. Is we've zoomed in a lot, so I want to show you how to zoom out. So here is my hydrangea flower, and it's too big to fit into my journal. So what I might do is I'm going to draw a cartoon of this whole stem. So I'm going to do this, the stem, and then like this. So I might just draw right? So I might show that that's what the whole stem looks like, but I want to zoom in. I want to zoom in on that. So maybe I will, you know, do a leaf here. So I might do a contour drawing of this leaf, or you could even trace leaves if you have a weird shape. But I think I'm going to eyeball this one just because we're practicing our modified contour drawing. So, and I know what the healthy hydrangea leaves look like. So I know that something happened to this leaf. So I'm excited to draw this, and I can, you know, start using my, oops, it's a little lopsided. That's okay. Okay. And I would say, the edges are eaten by something. I don't know who, because normally it should have serrated edges. And actually all of these leaves, oh, this one too, especially, look at that. Who's eating my plant? All right, so then I can zoom out and get a close-up. Again, the same thing with the flower. If you have something that's complicated, you don't have to draw the whole thing. This is a really nice tip. So if you draw a little cartoon of maybe the far away one, then you can zoom in and say, okay, I'm going to draw this one flower. It has this little knobbly thing in the center. Oops, let me put it so you guys can see. And it has this one kind of roughly petal here, and another one that comes out. And then this one's overlapping over here. All right, and so it has 4 petals. And then there's these other ones inside. So maybe I might want to draw one of these inside, and they actually look like they've exploded. Right? And then I might put a measurement on there and say, I'm just going to estimate that this is, you know, 4 centimeters, and the little one inside. And you know, these are actually, the ones inside are actually the flowers. Well, there's 2 different kinds of flowers. This is 8 millimeters. So this is 8 millimeters.
Mhm.
And so when you're looking at something complicated, you don't have to draw the whole thing. You can if you want to, but I like to just get into the curiosity of like, oh my gosh, what happened to this leaf, and try to find evidence of, what could have happened. Do I see? My first thing might be looking for slug tracks, right? I don't know if any of you have gardens, but I don't see any shiny. I don't see any shiny slug tracks, right? So I could even write that down in my journal. Okay, no slug tracks. And then I might look around and say, do I see any evidence of bugs? So I'm going to have to go back outside at my hydrangea bush and see if I can find any other culprits to see if I might be able to discover who is eating my leaves. Look at that poor hydrangea. But it didn't eat any of the flowers. The flowers look okay. So I know this was kind of a fast run through of some things that we can do with nature journaling, but I hope that you feel like this is something that is possible for you to do. You don't have to have fancy drawing skills, and the more that you do this by sketching what is in front of you, your drawing skills will improve. It's a skill, which means that anyone can improve, right? If you can hold a pen and put it onto the page, you can learn how to draw better. And the goal is not to draw. I want to say the goal is not to draw. The goal is to notice nature, right? To feel like, what does that tomato feel like? You can go more in depth. You can like have a taste test of several different kinds of tomatoes and describe, what does this tomato taste like? What does this other tomato taste like, right? And just, revel in the joy of what nature has to offer. So if you would like to learn more, I'm going to share my screen here. Let me go back to this slide. Okay, I teach nature journaling courses online. If you go to sparkinnature.com, that's my website, and you can sign up for the newsletter. And I think that might be the easiest way to find out when the next activities are going on. I have we just started doing in-person outdoor nature journaling. So I'm down in the Monterey area. So you can find out about those. The online sessions, the free Sunday sessions are about twice a month. And the next one is coming up this Sunday on the 29th. And just look around your nearby nature. If you can't get outside, bring things inside. Look at what's in your refrigerator. Look at a house plant. Look at maybe goldfish that you have or other animals that you might have. You can look at photographs that you've taken or other people have taken, and start training our eye and our hand and asking questions and really being present with what's in nature with us. Because there's so much out there that is invisible, right? I've had students tell me that they have lived in somewhere for 20 years and they never noticed this one plant that's outside until they nature journal it, and they were just really surprised at what they found. So I hope that nature shows its wonders and mysteries to you when you go outside with a new perspective. And if you want to contact me, I'm going to share my email down here. You can copy it. Yes, there was a spider in that columbine. I see the chat now, that little white spider. I'm going to put my email in here, sparkinnature@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. Join me and for nature journaling online to get you started. Sparkinnature.com. This is just the beginning, right? Everyone is on our own journey. This is what's so cool is there's always something new to learn when we go outside. And I've been nature journaling for over 20 years, and there's always something new for me to learn. And my observations and my drawing skills have improved, and they keep improving the more that I do them. I draw with more confidence today, but I'll tell you, it was hard at first, but just to keep continuing, keep practicing, and it gets easier with time. So I want to wrap that up here and just open, if there's any questions, I can stick around for a few minutes. I'll just hand it back to Devora.
Thank you, Melinda.
Yeah.
That was great. And I imagine everybody is hungry and wants to eat a tomato now.
Me too. Thank you. It was great.
Are there any questions? Do you guys have any questions about this process or Melinda's technique, or how often do you find yourself nature journaling, Melinda?
So when the shelter in place started, I nature journaled every day, and that was kind of my way to gain some sense of peace and calm in my world. And for about I nature journal almost every day. If I'm not teaching nature journaling, I'm out noticing nature, and it's because it's part of my own practice, my own way to calm myself, get grounded and reconnected with nature. Helps me be a better mother, a wife, a daughter, a teacher, a business person. It helps me in all aspects of my life to be in nature. So yeah, I think I journal almost every day.
And do you sit down where you're drawing?
I stand. Yeah, when I'm outside, I'll often like hold my nature journal, and I've just learned how to kind of brace it and then sketch. I like to journal a lot outside. That's why I like to do it quickly, so that I can scribble. That's why I encourage everyone to scribble sketch. It doesn't have to be, a perfect picture. And over time it gets better. Like I look at my journal now and it looks totally different than when I started, 20 years or even 5 years ago. My nature journaling looked very different. It was more, I can feel that I felt more fear in my drawing because I was focusing on making it look pretty. But I've really worked, in the last few years to just make the focus about the joy of nature. If
I will say, I think what you consider scribble sketch looks pretty good to the rest of us, but I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
It's less precise. Yeah.
And it's, Devora, the reason why it looks good to you is because of all the years that I've practiced.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can do this as well. And you don't have to have a whole lot of years. It's about noticing nature. That's what really the gift that I want to give all of you is this opportunity to see nature in a different way, to know that there's joy all around us, right outside our front door, even in our refrigerator.
What do you like to use to add color?
I like to use watercolor. So I use a water brush, which strangely, I have 3 water brushes and they're all missing. So it's what it is. It's like this. It's a plastic. It holds water. I don't know if you can see. It holds water, and it's just bristles. Synthetic bristles, and that way it's easy to take with me in the field outside. You don't have to have a cup of water because the water is in the pen, and then I just clear the paint off on a rag or a paper towel, and I add color there that way. I also use some colored pencils. Actually, the first maybe 15 years that I nature journaled, it was only colored pencil because I was afraid to use watercolor. But it was a workshop that I took. Someone shared, a water brush, told me how to use a water brush, and I experimented and got really comfortable with it. So use what you're comfortable with and use what you have and start there, right? If we all start where we're at, like right in the beginning, wherever you are, everyone's going to look different. But what's important is that you are putting in those the time to do the blind contour drawings. Those are practice too. They count as improving your drawing. And with blind contour, I feel like I'm tricking my brain, like I'm tricking that critical voice, right? So if I do a blind contour, I'm not expecting it to look good, so it kind of gets past that inner critic. But in the process, I'm actually doing something good. I'm training my eye, brain, and hand to work as a team, right? And the more blind contours I do, when I go to draw something in nature, it's a tiny bit easier. And all those moments add up and makes it easier.
So if I just look up water brush, I'll find the source.
Yeah, it's a Pentel. I can type in here. It's Pentel Aquash. Pentel Aquash is the one that I would recommend. Aquash. I can spell it. Aquash. Water brush. Pentel is the brand. Aquash, I think, is like kind of the name of the brush. And then I use the medium, but you can get medium or large. And you just fill it with water. It lasts a long time.
Yeah.
And you can give that a try and play around with it. Yeah. But colored pencils are just fine too, or you can get watercolor pencils and you can control where the color goes a little bit more. But the water brush is convenient because then you don't have to carry around a cup of water. And with watercolors, you never want to pour that water out into the environment. So if you bring water, you want to be, very mindful and carry like another water bottle to carry the dirty water in. So it becomes a little bit tricky. So I like the water brush. It's nice and handy. Sometimes I'll take the water brush and I don't have time to color it when I'm outside. And so what I do is I might take a photograph of it, but I try to do the sketching when I'm outside. And I just want to show you, like, I might just go and do color dots. Like, these are the colors I see today in nature. And then I do my sketching. And then I might color it later, and say, oh yeah, this is the color that it was, right? And I might make a note and then I can color it later. But when I draw in nature, I capture the feeling of being present. That's what I love to do. So it doesn't mean that you have to do that. Sometimes I bring like this, I might bring something inside and this has really got me curious. So since I've broken this from my plant, I'll probably nature journal this, it's given me an opportunity, like, look at that. Isn't that cool? Looking at the back. Who would think to look at a back of a flower? A nature journaler would, right? So look at the backs and insides and outsides and explore what this beautiful world is showing us every single day, because this flower, just like Rachel Carson said, this will be no more. Once this dies, it will never be again. And so if we approach nature with that sense of, this is really special, this moment is special, this leaf is special, it brings us so much more joy. So I hope that this has been helpful to you and has inspired you to want to look at nature journaling as something that you want to do for yourself. And perhaps I'll see you online in one of my sessions.
Before you leave, could you say what watercolors you would recommend?
Yeah, I would say don't let the supplies prevent you from starting. That's first of all. Okay. You can use whatever price range, because I started with really inexpensive watercolors because I didn't have the means to buy professional grade watercolors. But I will say that when I tried, I use Daniel Smith is the brand that I use, Daniel Smith Professional Watercolors. And you can get them at Michael's. You can get them online. You can get one tube at a time, or you can get a little kit. Daniel Smith has a little travel kit. I use a kit that's made by another nature journal teacher, John Muir Laws, and it's I have a lot of colors in here. You don't need this many colors, but I will tell you that using high grade, high quality supplies makes things much more fun. But don't I'm going to just say, don't feel like you have to get those. So many people are not in the position to be able to purchase things like that. So use whatever is in your price. I think Koi is another brand that's inexpensive that you can get at the art store or craft store, and they make little travel kits. You can start there. I think you can get one for $25 or $30. And if that's outside your price range, even just a really inexpensive kit from the craft store, start with something to get a feel for it. Or colored pencils. And then as you start to get comfortable, you can upgrade to get better quality, because the better qualities, it's going to be easier. The colors are going to be more vibrant. They're going to be easier to use. I make a little kit for myself, a travel kit that I'm still refining. Let me see if I can find it right here. I must have taken it out. Oh, here it is. So I usually keep this with me in my bag. So the other thing is keep a bag where you have your journal, your pencil, and your colors. But I take a little candy box, like a mint box, and then I've filled it with. You can buy these little empty pans, or you can use a gum. I have one with a gum case. You know the gum, the hard gum, like the chewy gum that's in the plastic blister pack. You can use the blister pack. I've made another kit where you put the blister pack in here and you can squeeze your watercolors in there. So the cool thing with the tube watercolor is if you squeeze it in and let it dry overnight, then it's solid, and all you need to take is a wet brush and you can get the color. So you don't have to have the watercolors that you buy from the kit from the store, but you can if you want to. The tubes are more economical, but that's all technical stuff that I don't want anyone to get caught up in. All you need is your curiosity, your pencil and a pen, and something to write on, and just explore what's out there.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for
everyone
inviting
for
me.
joining us.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Okay.
take care. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I love your laugh, Emily. Thanks for being here. It's been really fun. All right.
It
Get
has
out
been
and
fun,
see.
yes.
I'm glad. Well, get out and see what is in your nearby nature. I would say look at your common plants and see what is special about that common plant that you walk by every day. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.